In those days there were shepherds, and there were shepherds too these days. Shepherds are much written about in the Bible. They describe people who are protective and defending, and are there to care and look after the sheep, and the welfare and well-being of the community. It also says about bad shepherds, rogue shepherds, put in their place, who do not look after the sheep, or the community, or people, but do the direct opposite and harm those who they are entrusted to look after. And today, the good shepherds have been removed, they've had their funding cut, the amalgamation of good shepherding unions disbanded and removed from their cottages, which they forgot were tithed, as all statutory and support services are funded by government and never been independent. Yet the truth was born, and it passed among us, and was shared, and it continued to live among us. The disabled were suffering. Atos was hurting people. The work capability programs were an insult and a joke, with only 5% being found work, and even then, not consistent and permanent work. And 80% of employers and businesses recently admitted they would not consider employing any disabled people. And of the 20% who said they would employ disabled people, it would only be mild disabled and those who would not give them any trouble, any further demands, or be expected to have lots of time off. This was brought in by the Labour government, but the coalition government has continued it, and it has become worse. Since the coalition government came into power, the majority of funding has been removed from advocacy services, support services, legal services, charities, disabled, and even the right for legal aid and our right to law has been removed because the funding has been removed. There is no law, no right to law, and no support of law, and the basic access to basic needs and rights which all our citizens should have a right immediately. So what happened to the wise men? What happened to the wisdom and intelligence and common sense? Well, they got passed over, ignored, and dismissed as cranks and liars. The disturbing truth about Unum and Atos is that they have convinced governments that expert medical knowledge, qualified GPs and well-experienced nurses, as well as the patient and the families themselves, are all untrustworthy and unreliable, and they're all lying and colluding with the disabled and the disability. They're all wagging it or trying to pull a fast one. Therefore, Atos has persuaded governments to make the Atos decision makers have more authority and right to declare a person fit or unfit and turn them off their benefits and support rather than a qualified and expert medical expert, specialist or GP, or any medical or qualified knowledge that supports the person's illness and disability. The wise men have been dismissed and sent packing. Their gifts of knowledge, expertise and experience consigned to the dustbin of post-Christmas unwanted and rejected presents. No one is safe as medical knowledge is no longer held as an authority.